All right, we're still on Chapter 1 review, and these are the problems from 1.6, the second set, Part 2. We're going to simplify and write answers as reduced fractions. So this is still working on order of operations with positive and negative numbers. All right, so I need to simplify the numerator and denominator separately. Make sure that you don't try to cancel. So in the numerator, if you want, you could think of it as being in a parentheses, for instance. That's up to you. You don't have to put a parentheses around there. And in that order of operations, the first thing would be to do the squaring, which is the 4 squared. So we can copy up to that point, negative 3 minus 16. You could also do this on the side. All right, the denominator, we have minus and 2 to the 5th. Remember that the base is 2, so I have to do 2 to the 5th power times the negative 1. Remember that means negative 1 times 2 to the 5th. And 2 to the 5th is 32. So the denominator will be negative 32. Now, don't try to cancel the 16 and the 32. You still have to simplify the numerator. So I have negative 3 minus 16, which remember can be thought of as negative 3 plus negative 16. So in the numerator I have negative 19, and in the denominator I have negative 32. So I've got a negative divided by a negative, and the answer is 1932, because that'll be a positive number. And that's number 1. All right, here's number 2. Again, a fraction, so we have to simplify the numerator and the denominator separately. The denominator is the easy part. 5 squared is 5 times 5. So the 25 goes in the denominator. And in the numerator, I've got 5 minus 4 times negative 3, and you need to remember to do the multiplication first. Do not do the 5 minus 4. So we have 5 minus negative 12, or 5 plus 12, because you're going to have a negative times a negative. So 5 plus 12 is 17, 25ths. It does not reduce, so the answer is 17 25ths. Let's go on to the next one. Okay. Again, we have to simplify the numerator and denominator separately. That could be done on the scratch on the side. The bottom's easy. 6 squared is 6 times 6. Now in the numerator, you have to do inside parentheses first. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it here as opposed to on scratch work. Do not do 7 minus 4. Simplify inside the parentheses. 1 minus 3 is 1 plus negative 3, so the answer is negative 2. Okay, so if you want, that's because that's plus and negative 3. All right, then it gets similar to the problem we just did in number 2. So that's going to be 7 minus negative 8, which is the same thing as 7 plus 8. Because remember, do not do 7 minus 4. You need to multiply the 4 times the negative 2. Or you could think of it as a negative 4 times negative 2 and have the plus sign. So this gives us 1536. Now, this is not reduced, because 1536, there's a common factor of 3. If you divide the top and bottom by 3, in fact, I'll show that. If you divide both the top and bottom by 3, you get 5/12. So that's the answer. And you could reduce it in other ways. All right, we're still on 1.6. This is part 3. Evaluate each expression when x equals 2, y equals negative 3, and z equals negative 4. Now, the rest of the directions also say to write each number as an integer or a reduced fraction. In other words, do not write as a decimal. And if it's undefined, write the word undefined. In other words, if it's not a number. So here's number 1. 5x cubed means 5 times x times x times x. So we have 5 times 2 times 2 times 2. I like to think of this as 10 times 4, and I get 40. All right, so I think of it as 10 times 4. Okay, let's go on to number 2. We've got 7yz minus 8x. So the first thing is to plug in the values. So we have 7 times negative 3 times negative 4, because those are the values for y and z, minus 8x. I'm going to run out of space here. Minus 8 times 2. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to write it over here. I should have just done it under here. A little bit easier to see. Alright, so here we go. I've plugged in the values. Now we need to do order of operations. So multiplication, 2 places, we have to do before the subtraction. So I've got 2 negative signs here, so you could think of this as 21 times 4, or 7 times 12. It's going to be 84. And 8 times 2 is 16, so my answer is 72. All right, let's just leave that off so it's not confusing. Okay. All right, number 3. Over on the right here are the values for x, y, and z again, so we're going to plug those in. So we have 4 times 2 times a negative 3 minus, and be careful, don't just put 4, you're subtracting z, which is negative 4, so it's minus a negative 4. And in the denominator we have 3 times x, which is 2, plus 1. All right, so in the numerator, I need to multiply first. So I have 4 times 2 times negative 3, so the answer is going to be negative, that's 8 times 3, 24. And minus negative 4 could be written as plus 4, because adding the opposite. You could do that. And in the bottom, we have to do multiplication first, 6 plus 1. Keep resisting the urge to cancel, can't do that. So we have to keep going, adding in the numerator until it's simplified as negative 20, and in the denominator is 7. You could write it like that, or negative 27ths, or you could write it as a mixed number, which would be negative 2 and 6/7 if you want to write it as a mixed number. That's also fine. But it is reduced at this point. Okay, here's number 4. Again, here are the values we're plugging in for x, y, and z. So that's the first step. We're putting in a 2 for x and a negative 3 for y, and then cubing it. All right, order of operations says do inside parentheses first. So inside parentheses, I have to do the multiplication here before doing my addition. So I've got 2 plus 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And I have to keep simplifying inside the parentheses. Do not write 2 cubed plus negative 6 cubed. You must add inside first, according to the order of operations. So that's a negative 4 to the 3rd power. All right, since you have a negative 4 in parentheses to the 3rd power, that means the base is negative 4. So you're multiplying negative 4 times itself 3 times. So you have 3 negative signs, so it's negative, and 4 times 4 is negative 64. And there you go. All right, here's number 5. Again, we're going to begin by plugging in the correct values for x, y, and z. So we have 3 times negative 3 plus 2 in the numerator, and negative 4 plus 5 in the denominator. So in the numerator, we've got to do multiplication first, negative 9 plus 2, and in the denominator, we're just adding. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. In the numerator, I've got negative 9 plus 2, which is negative 7, divided by 1. Well, any number divided by 1 is itself. So the correct answer is negative 7. All right, here's the last problem of this set. So we're going to plug in negative 3 for y. Now, you could write y as y times y first, So I'm going to write that as negative 3 times negative 3. Otherwise, you could write a negative 3 in parentheses squared. And at the bottom, we have 2 minus yz, which is negative 3 times negative 4. So in the numerator, all there is the multiplication. In the denominator, we've got to do this multiplication here first, 2 minus 12. And that gives us negative 10 in the bottom. Don't leave a negative in the denominator. Positive divided by negative is negative 9/10. Keep in mind, anytime your answer has a 0 in the numerator and not in the denominator, the answer is 0. And anytime there's a 0 in the denominator, the answer is undefined. And that's the end.